Dear students, today's class is on impact of periodontal infection on systemic health. How periodontal disease going to affect systemic health. That is what we are going to see. So the learning outcomes are explain the pathobiology of periodontitis, recall the focal infection theory, outline the effect of periodontal disease on various systemic conditions, describe about periodontal disease and systemic health in clinical practice. So to start with, what are all the things we are going to see is, can the bacterial infection of the periodontium will infect or affect the other systems other than the oral cavity? Is periodontal infection a risk factor for systemic disease or condition that affects the human health? These are all the things we are going to see in today's class. So basically the class consists of pathobiology of periodontal disease, focal infection theory, subgingival environment as a reservoir of bacteria, and different systemic disease which is affected by periodontal disease. So to start with, the mechanism by which periodontal infection may influence systemic health have been described into three types: either by oral hematogenous spread through the blood into the target organs, or through the transtracheal into the target organs, or through the bloodstream into an either by antibodies or cytokines with an effect to a distant organs. These are all the possible ways where the periodontal pathogen can affect the systemic health. So we will start with the pathobiology of periodontitis. So what is periodontitis? Periodontitis is an infectious disease which is associated with a smaller number of predominantly gram-negative microorganisms which is present in the subgingival biofilm. Basically the bacterial pathogen with the susceptible host will result in periodontitis, which means to say that not all patients with presence of bacteria or pathogen will result in periodontitis. The host should be susceptible for the pathogen to induce disease. Mere presence of a pathogen or mere susceptible host will not result in periodontal disease. So due to this difference in host susceptibility, all individuals are not equally vulnerable to the destructive effect of the periodontal pathogens and the immunoinflammatory response to those organisms. The recent evidence suggests that periodontal infection may significantly enhance the risk of certain systemic disease or alter the natural course of the systemic condition. So what is focal infection theory? Focal infection theory is an oral microorganism were responsible for a wide range of systemic conditions that were not easily recognized as being infectious in nature, but identified gingivitis and periodontitis as a foci of infection. The focal infection theory states that the focus of infection may be in the oral cavity, but it has an effect in the distant organ. It can infect other organs because of the foci of infection which is present in the oral cavity. So oral organisms had a specific action on different tissues, and that these organisms acted to produce toxins, resulting in a low-grade sub-infections which produce systemic effects over a prolonged period of time. But eventually this theory lost its importance due to lack of evidence during 1940s and 50s. But after the advancement of our gene therapies and microorganism culture and sensitivities and ELISA test, now we have evidence stating that the oral organisms can be isolated in systemic circulation, and it has been shown that some pathogens like P. gingivalis, the Porphyromonas gingivalis, have been shown to be present in cardiovascular wall when the patient is infected with cardiovascular disease. So there is the reliable proof that the oral microorganism have an impact on systemic disease. So we'll see one by one how it affects. So basically the bacteria or the dental biofilm results in gingivitis, or if the gingivitis is untreated and the host is susceptible, it will result in periodontitis. The periodontitis, if untreated, it will result in the bacteria entering into the circulation and go into the systemic circulation. Once it enters the systemic circulation, it can affect any part of the body and result in systemic disease. So subgingival environment as a reservoir for bacteria. The subgingival microbiota persistent gram-negative bacteria, which is the challenge to the host. These bacteria produce lipopolysaccharides which can be readily accessible to the periodontal tissue and to the circulation via the sulcular epithelium, which is frequently ulcerated and discontinuous during periodontal disease. The bacteremias are common after mechanical periodontal therapy and also occurs frequently during normal daily functions like toothbrushing. This host response may offer explanatory mechanism for the interaction between the periodontal infection and variety of systemic disorders. So what are all the systems we can expect that periodontal periodontal microorganisms can affect are cardiovascular system or cerebrovascular system, endocrine system, respiratory system and reproductive system. The cardiovascular system, most frequent problem will be atherosclerosis, coronary heart disease, angina pectoris, myocardial infarction and cerebrovascular accident. Endocrine system, diabetes mellitus, reproductive system, preterm low birth weight and preeclampsia, respiratory system, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and acute bacterial pneumonia. We'll see one by one how periodontal disease can induce these systemic problems or systemic diseases. So periodontal disease and coronary heart disease, how the relation going to happen. The coronary heart disease related events are a major cause for death, and myocardial infarction have been associated with acute systemic bacterial and viral infections. So periodontal infection may affect the onset or progression of atherosclerosis and congestive heart disease through both causal and non-causal mechanisms. Basically the coronary heart disease, either it is a chronic or acute, which can result in atherosclerosis or thromboembolism, which narrows the capillaries and result in decreased blood supply to the heart, which can result in myocardial infarction and angina pectoris. How the systemic periodontal infection result in this ischemic heart disease is, once the microorganisms enters into the bloodstream, what it does is it is going to go into the circulation. Once it is in the circulation, it results in an endothelial damage and platelet addition. These microorganisms go embed into the walls of the blood vessels and start forming the plaque. The arthromatous plaque formation will happen once the bacteria adheres to the periphery of the blood walls, the circulation, the walls of the circulating system, which will result in arthroma formation and results in vessel wall thickening, which finally results in a thromboembolic event. So the periodontal infection may also promote increased blood viscosity and thrombogenesis, leading to an increased risk for central and peripheral vascular disease, periodontal disease may predispose the patient to an increased incidence of bacteremia, including the presence of virulent gram-negative organisms associated with periodontitis. Platelets selectively bind some strains of Streptococcus and a common component of supragingival plaque, and a Porphyromonas gingivalis, a common pathogen seen in periodontitis. This can result in thrombogenesis and or thromboembolic formation. A gram-negative bacteria associated lipopolysaccharides can cause infiltration of inflammatory cells into the arterial walls, proliferation of arterial smooth muscles, and intravascular coagulation, which results in arthromatosis. So by this, the pathogen can enter the circulation and induce thrombus formation. Once this thrombus dislodges into the circulation and go and block a major vessel, which results in stroke or cardiac arrest or congestive cardiac failure. The next possible disease is diabetes mellitus. Periodontal disease and diabetes mellitus. What is the relation between periodontal disease and diabetes mellitus? These two diseases share the same inflammatory mechanism, more or less the same inflammatory mechanisms. So when there is a periodontal disease, there is a possibility of getting diabetes mellitus, and when there is patient is having diabetes mellitus, there is a possibility of getting periodontal disease. So the increased prevalence and severity of periodontitis typically seen in patients with diabetes, especially those with poorly controlled diabetes, which leads to the designation of periodontal disease as a sixth complication for diabetes. So periodontal disease as a sixth complication for diabetes. So periodontal disease can induce diabetes mellitus. So what is the questions we have? Does the presence or severity of periodontal disease affects the metabolic state of diabetes patient? Does periodontal treatment aim at reducing the bacterial challenge and minimizing inflammation have a measurable effect on glycemic control? So we'll see one by one. Does the presence and severity of periodontal disease affects the metabolic state of diabetes mellitus? Yes. The severe periodontal disease was associated with significant worsening of glycemic control over the period of time. So the diabetic adult with severe periodontitis at baseline had a significantly greater incidence of other microvascular complications compared to patients without periodontitis or gingivitis or mild periodontitis. One or more cardiovascular complications occurs in 82% of the patients with severe periodontitis. More severe the periodontitis, more severe will be the diabetes mellitus and results in more severe complications post diabetes mellitus. So how it is possible? So the possible thing has been identified based on the treatment. When the patient with diabetes mellitus and periodontitis treated for periodontal disease shown an improvement in insulin levels, the insulin control. So the treatment with scaling and root planing, surgery or selected tooth extraction and systemic antibiotics resulted in decreased insulin demand. So the mechanism by which this adjunctive antibiotic may induce positive changes in glycemic control is certainly unknown, but it has been found to be beneficial for the diabetic patients. So routine non-surgical procedure like scaling, root planing along with an antibiotic gives a better improvement for patients with diabetes mellitus and get a better control over the diabetic state. Does minimizing the inflammation have an effect on glycemic control? Again, the answer is yes. The systemic inflammation plays a major role in insulin sensitivity and glucose dynamics. So the periodontal disease can induce or perpetuate an elevated systemic chronic inflammatory state as a reflected in increased serum creatinine levels, serum C-reactive protein levels, interleukin levels, and fibrinogen levels, which is seen in many peoples with periodontitis. So the periodontitis can increase the glycemic level. If the patient is an uncontrolled periodontal disease, which is severe periodontitis, patients can have increased in blood sugar levels. Once the treatment is done, you can expect some amount of improvement in diabetic level also. If the patient is in controlled diabetic state, you can see some improvement in periodontal disease state also. So both goes parallel to each other. One gets controlled, the other gets controlled by itself. So the next possible systemic problem we are going to encounter with periodontal disease is pregnancy outcomes. So the low birth weight infants are 40 times more likely to die in neonatal period than normal birth weight infants. A non-disseminated infection with Porphyromonas gingivalis may result in abnormal pregnancy outcomes. Low birth weight infants had significantly higher levels of Agricatibacter actinomycetum committens, Tannerella forsythia, Porphyromonas gingivalis, and Treponema denticola in their subgingival plaque than the control women who was having a normal birth weight infants. So this has been shown that a patient with low birth weight infant have significantly higher levels of periodontal pathogens in the oral cavity. Women having low birth weight infants also have higher levels of gingival crevicular fluid, prostaglandin E2, and interleukin 1. So the periodontal disease may increase the risk for preeclampsia. Preeclampsia is a pregnancy hypertension. So the presence of periodontitis during pregnancy or a worsening of periodontal disease during pregnancy is associated with 2 to 2.5 times more increased risk of preeclampsia. So how this happens, how the periodontal pathogen going to affect the birth low birth weight infant. So basically the bacterial infection enters into the circulation, and the bacteria and its byproducts enters the amnion, which results in inflammatory response with cytokine production in the amnion. This increases the amniotic prostaglandin production, which results in preterm labor. So basically when labor pain going to happen, there will be increase in prostaglandin E2. Prostaglandin E2 is nothing but an cytokine which is responsible for pain. It is an replication of pain, or whenever there is prostaglandin E2, the patient will feel the pain. It is a cytokine which is involved with pain mechanism. So this prostaglandin E2 will be increased in case of periodontitis. A patient with periodontal disease, there is an increase in prostaglandin E2 levels. This is the cytokine which is responsible for labor pain also. So once there is an increase in prostaglandin E2, the body doesn't understand whether it is due to periodontal disease or due to the pregnancy outcome. So when there is an increase in this prostaglandin E2, which may affect the pregnancy outcome, because it is going to be in systemic circulation, so it is not going to affect only the periodontium but also the systemic. So it can result in preterm labor. The final possible systemic disease is chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. How periodontal disease is going to affect or have a relation with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. COPD shares similar pathogenic mechanism with periodontal disease. Subjects with more severe bone loss at the baseline examination had a significant increased risk of subsequent development of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease compared with subjects with less bone loss. Individuals with poor oral hygiene have also been found to be at increased risk of chronic respiratory disease such as bronchitis and emphysema. So, to conclude, periodontitis is a gram-negative infection often resulting in severe inflammation with potential intravascular dissemination of microorganisms and their products throughout the body. Once these periodontal pathogens or its byproducts enters into the body, it can go into any organs and affect the system. So periodontitis tend to be a silent disease. The concept of periodontal disease as a localized entity affecting only the teeth and supporting apparatus is no more appropriate for a good clinical practice, because it is not going to be only on periodontium, because the periodontal pathogens are tissue invasive pathogens which relies on blood for its growth. Basically, the gram-negative organisms, the periodontal pathogens, requires proteins for its growth. It basically takes the proteins from the blood, the hemoglobin part of the blood. It is going to take the proteins. So that is why it can enter into the circulation. These are tissue invasive, so it invades the tissue, it goes into the circulation, and it can disseminate it into any part of the body. Once it disseminated to any part of the body, these periodontal pathogens can induce any type of systemic disease. Starts from either cardiovascular disease like arthromatous plaque, thrombus formation, myocardial infection, or a preterm low birth weight baby, or preterm induced labor, or diabetes mellitus. Anything is possible with periodontal microorganisms. So it is important to identify periodontal disease in early stages and treat it appropriately in early stages to prevent any systemic complication at a later stage of time. That is why we insist that periodontal treatment should be done at early stages so that the complications can be avoided. Thank you.